What's up, you absolute legends? I know I've had a hiatus, but hey, I've been busy, but I'm back. And we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about round 23 review, round 24 review, preview of the finals, lots of things to talk about. So this could be a long episode, so strap yourselves in. So we're looking at round 23, and I'll be really quick with this. So it was Essendon hosting Sydney, and round 23 in Essendon. If they would have won, they probably would have made finals, but they lost this one, and Sydney won by 39, and Sydney smoking them, and Sydney were the better team and helped Sydney's current form. And then on Saturday we had Gold Coast hosting Melbourne. And for the Sydney Essendon game, I picked Sydney. For this one, Gold Coast hosting Melbourne, I thought Gold Coast would have won, but I picked Gold Coast. Because Gold Coast just came off a win against Essendon at the Marvel Stadium, but ended up losing to Melbourne by 54 points, and pretty disappointing outing for Gold Coast at home. Very, very disappointing. They should have won that one. It was their last game at home, and that's the way you end it. Such a bad season for Gold Coast. Then we had GWS hosting Fremantle at NG Stadium. And Fremantle needed to win this one. More on the line for them than GWS, but GWS ended up winning by 9. Hogan had a day out. Brent Daniels had a day out. This is Freo without Tracy. And this is Freo's third loss in a row, and this is what shambles of a season just fell apart. This was one of them that they should have won by another small margin. And then we had Collingwood hosting Brisbane, the MCG. And Brisbane, if they would have won this game, they would have been top 4. But obviously they did not, and Collingwood beat them by 1. And Brisbane had a late lead, and Collingwood just came up and whipped them. And then we had the showdown, and Adelaide won the past 3 showdowns. And this Port Adelaide would have not won this, they would have not finished top 2. But they beat the Adelaide, and they finished top 2. And they got the showdown crap off their shoulders, and it was a decent game. Close 22-point game, close. And we had St Kilda and Geelong, and St Kilda had nothing to play for. This at Marvel Stadium, and Geelong had top 2 on the line, and Geelong lost this one. And it's surprising that St Kilda won this, but St Kilda were really bad at the start of the year, but finished quite strongly. So Geelong not top 2 just because of this one game. It was at Marvel Stadium, and Sunday we had Western Bulldogs beating North Melbourne, Marvel Stadium, by nearly 100. And it was their bounce back from losing to Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval the week before, which was quite a big upset for Adelaide. So Western Bulldogs beat North Melbourne and kept their place in the 8 because of that. And we had Hawthorn destroying Richmond by 63, and Hawthorn cracking the whip and went to 7th because of this game. Actually, no, 8th. No, maybe 8th or 7th. And then we had Eagles losing to Carlton, even though Carlton had no team. Eagles just got destroyed at the Optus Stadium by 65, and Brody Kemp became a forward, and quite a good underdog win. But Eagles were the favourites that game too. Looks like. And I picked the Eagles that game too. I got that wrong. And I picked Geelong in that game, and they got wrong. And I picked lots of games I got wrong. I think I picked Freo too, and I got that one wrong. And round 24, we had Collingwood beating Melbourne on Friday, MCG, and Collingwood were just way better team, and it was a dead rubber game, and there was a lightning, so the game got delayed, and this feels like a long time ago, round 24, because it's been 2 weeks since the last game, so it feels like a long time. And it was a boring game, and Collingwood won by a lot, and they just finished the season well, and I don't know, give them momentum to next year. Melbourne just capitulated, and their forward line was rubbish, just like the rest of the year. Then we had Hawthorn beating North Melbourne by 124, biggest win of the year by far. Hawthorn smoked them. This was in Tasmania, and Hawthorn basically got in the 8 wheels of that game. And I had a little Clark who was talking smack in the week. Oh yeah, we got a plan for Hawthorn, and they got smoked. It was like, yeah, sure, plan, whatever. And then we had Geelong kicking the hell out of the Eagles by 93 points at GMHBA, and Tom Hawkins was waving to the crowd, and Geelong kicked their ass, man. They were up by 100 at half time, and the margin ended up being 93. So I guess the Eagles kicked us some goals in the second half, but still, Geelong smoked them, and Eagles never play well on down in Geelong. And then we had Gold Coast beating Richmond, the MCG, which was quite surprising. The Gold Coast's away record's not that good. This is their second away win for the year, but too little too late when their season was done, and Richmond's season was done too, obviously. And Pickett got farewelled, Grimes and Dusty all got farewelled for this game. And many other people from Richmond are going to leave too, so it ended an era some aspects. Richmond can only go up from here though. And then we had Brisbane Essendon, and Brisbane won by 20, and so Brisbane kept their 5th spot. If Brisbane would have lost this game, they would have gone to probably 6th. And Brisbane had a big lead, and then Essendon chipped back at the lead, but still Brisbane won by 20, and Essendon finishing their disappointing season on a low. And then we had Sydney beating Adelaide by 30, which is always expected at the SCG, even though Sydney had been a rocky form. This was like a steadier into finals to capture the minor premiership. Then we had Western Bulldogs beating the red hot 7 wins in a row Giants by 37, and Ballarat. And I knew Western Bulldogs would win because in Ballarat, Western Bulldogs are a very good team. And Western Bulldogs has put the sword to them, and GWS hasn't played this bad for quite a while. It was their first loss in ages, so. And that's why GWS finished low on the 4. Yes. If GWS would have won this game, they would have been top 2. Silly. I know it's silly, but that's just how it is. I hurt my meat foot. Meat foot. Yep. And then we had Carlton, St Kilda, and Marvel Stadium. And Carlton lost this one. Carlton should have won. They choked it, didn't they? Jack Higgins kicked the winning goal, and I was at Optus Stadium when St Kilda won. And since St Kilda won, I gave Freo a chance of making finals. So the crowd started going crazy, and I was like, why are they going crazy? And I looked, and St Kilda beat Carlton by 2, and Carlton basically let their fate of the top 8 rest on Fremantle. But they're lucky Fremantle lost to Port Adelaide the next game, which I was at, and Port flexed their muscle. Port got into the top 2. Port won by 20, and Fremantle's finals chances, they lost their last 4 games, and Freo started playing slow and crappy and got scary and didn't want to take risks, and that's why Freo lost. Pretty simple. And if Freo would have played faster and not had injuries, they would have made the 8 probably, but still, losing your last 4 games off 2 players, 3 players, come on, man. But we know that Pearce and Darcy are injury prone, so it's like, they've played without Darcy and Pearce in 1 game, so it's like, they should have won this game. It was at home, and they should have won. Port Adelaide, they were losing, they still probably would have finished 3rd at the minimum, so. Freo are stupid, man. And Carlton got on the 8 just because of that shit. Okay, good one, Freo. And the Freo fans are crying. 23-24 review. Alright, 23-24. Yeah. And today, the big game starts. The final start this week. Yeah. First game's today. Port Adelaide with Geelong. I got Port Adelaide winning, and Port Adelaide are the favourites. This is down Adelaide Oval. Yeah, I can't see Geelong winning. I think Port Adelaide midfield's too strong, and Port Adelaide got enough decent forwards with Dixon and Georgiades to win this game. You'd think they'd get a home prelim, Port Adelaide. But last year they lost they got out in straight sets last year, but this year they finished top 2. Well, they finished. What were they last year? I think Port Adelaide were 3rd last year. Who did they lose to in the first final? Brisbane or Collingwood? Brisbane? Yeah, I think Brisbane beat Port Adelaide in the first final last year, but this time Port Adelaide hosting at Adelaide Oval. And we know Port Adelaide lost quite a lot of home finals in their time, but I think they'll beat Geelong. And I know Geelong's got Cameron and all them, and a good forward line and a good back line, but I just think that midfield, besides Dangerfield and Holmes, is very average. And I know Guthrie might come back, but Guthrie hasn't played for ages, and Hawkins, if they bring him back, he's going to be old and slow and out of form, so I can't see. Yeah, I don't think they brought Hawkins back yet, because they announced the team, so I don't think they bring Hawkins back. I think Port Adelaide brought back Dixon and Narkle. Yeah, and Farrell and Viacenti got out, and Geelong, they kept the same team, so Hawkins didn't come in, Dixon didn't come in. Just smart by them, because I don't think Hawkins is good enough anymore. He's retiring anyway, so it would have been poetic for Hawkins to play, but I think it's that, even before his injury, he was that much out of form, and Shannon Neal's been playing a lot better than him. I couldn't see how you could kick anyone out the side for Hawkins, even though he's a veteran. So I got Port Adelaide winning that one, advancing to a home prelim, and then Geelong will be facing the winner of Western Bulldogs Hawthorn, which is the next game at MCG. and Port was second, Geelong the third, and Western Bulldogs the fifth, and Hawthorn the seventh. And see Western Bulldogs winning this one. I know it's the G, and Hawthorn play the G better, and Western Bulldogs play Marlborough better, but I see Western Bulldogs winning this one. The Ugelhagen, Darcy, and Norton. One of them is bound to have a big game, and Hawthorn's defenders are not tall enough to match those guys. And I know Hawthorn's got their small grade, which is like that. Hawthorn's forward line is very unpredictable. So it'd be hard to defend, and their ball movement is crazy fast. But Western Bulldogs do the same too. And Western Bulldogs have Liam Jones, and they have Richards and Bontempelli and Treloar, and they got a lot of good players on that team. So I see them winning and advancing and facing probably Geelong in the semi-final of the MCG, or could be Port Adelaide. But Western Bulldogs Geelong would be a good game next week if that happens. But yeah, and Hawthorn my Hawks. At least we made it, and I'm happy with that. That's a pass block to me. If the game's close, I'd be happy. But Western Bulldogs should be winning this one by maybe 20. And I got Port Adelaide winning by 10, I'd say. And then we got Saturday, Sydney hosting GWS, the SCG, and Sydney are the favourites, and first to be fourth, but I got GWS winning this one. But GWS have a very good record against Sydney in the finals of 3-0. I know that Sydney beat GWS the prior 2 times this year in the Battle of the Bridge. I got GWS winning this one. Because they've done it every single time they've faced in the final. GWS done it, so I think GWS will do it again. They got a very strong team. Toby Green, Jesse Hogan, Green, Whitfield, Taylor, Buckley, so much in that. Kelly, Cornelio. There are such good players on that team that I got GWS winning. Very small margin though, maybe 5 points. Should be a cracking game. All these games should be cracking, but I think the Western Bulldogs Hawthorn game will probably be the best game of the round. In the last game of Saturday, we got 5th Brisbane versus Carlton, or 8th at the Gabba. Brisbane $1.29 favourites, and Carlton are $3.66. So Brisbane and Carlton are quite outsiders because all the injuries coming back, and they're going to be bringing back a lot of players like Mackay, Kerno, McGovern, Doherty, probably Chera. Some of the players are going to bring back, and if you bring all but too much at once, it stuffs up the team balance. And plus, all these guys are coming off an injury, so how well can Kerno, Mackay, and all these guys play coming off an injury? I don't know. And Doherty will be back from his first game from an ACL, which he did in the opening round at the Gabba and versus Brisbane. And I know Carlton won that game at opening round, but I think all these Carlton players coming off injury, I can't see them being Brisbane. And Brisbane are like full health, basically. Good form. Carlton have been in horrible form the last 6 weeks of the year. And Brisbane only lost, basically the last 12 weeks, Brisbane only lost 2 games the last 12 weeks. So Brisbane are in a lot of better form at home. And Brisbane have won this correlating game in the prelim last year. So I got Brisbane winning this one. I'd like to get into and we can do a little recap of all the teams that didn't make it this year. Collingwood won the flag last year. Were pretty decent mid-year, and then near the end they just started losing to everyone. They ended up with what? 12 wins, 2 draws, and 9 losses. So not that bad. And they would have made 8 over Collingwood if not for percentage. So their low percentage, 102, was the reason they didn't make the 8 compared to Carlton's 110. Collingwood had themselves to blame, but those 2 draws barely messed them up. If they would have won one of those 2 draws, they would be in the 8 instead of Carlton. Yes. And Collingwood had like a decent amount of injuries this year too. At the wrong time, DeGolby got injured, Mitchell got injured, Elliott got injured, Mychek got injured. So they had a lot of injuries. The key players, obviously. So if I could grade them, I'd give them a C, because not making the finals after winning a flag is not a good thing. You go from 1st to 9th, it's a pretty big fall, you know. Like, the only positives for this year probably Nick Dacos played out of his mind, and some of the recruits are pretty good, like Sullivan and all them, and Harvey Harrison, and that's the highlights. So the lowlights was all the injuries, and the draw against Essendon and Fremantle cost them their season, and such a low percentage too. And they weren't playing as high scoring as they was last year, and they weren't playing as free flowing as it was last year. And McCreary got injured too, and McStay came back from injury, but McStay was decent. But this list next year, they're quite an older list. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, if Tom Mitchell's going to get a game next year, or I don't know, you know. Mason Cox is going to get a game next year. Like, what are they going to do with this list? Are they going to trade some old guys out, delist some old guys, get some new ones in? Because at the draft, I'm pretty sure They don't even have their first pick, but they gave it to Fremantle for Lockie Schultz, and Lockie Schultz was decent this year, but not worth a first-round pick. So Collingwood, I think their first pick in the draft is 20, unless they trade up and do some movement, but I can't really see them trading anyone or getting rid of anyone and getting anyone in. There's been rumours of Stringer and all this, but they got no money, Collingwood, so how are they going to get a guy like Stringer? And trade targets like Collingwood besides Stringer, I don't know who they're not going for that many people. It hasn't come out publicly who they're going for. And they've signed all their guys over 30, so I don't really see anyone of that caliber leaving. So could be wrong, but next year they should be better. If the goalie is fully fit, Darcy Moore gets back to his best, Dacos gets helper in the midfield, not just carrying. It's going to be an older team. And they won their one premiership, so I guess it was worth it. But now all the guys are getting older. Jeremy Howe's like 33, and Mychek's 30, and Hoskin Elliott's 30, Jamie Elliott's like 32, Pendlebury 37, I think Sidebomb 36, Tom Mitchell 32, DeGoey 30. So they got a lot of older guys. Mason Cox, I think it's like 32. So they got a lot of older guys. And problem is the youth coming in, they're not like amazing. Besides like Nick Dacos and Josh Dacos, probably the best two players under 25. Besides that, I don't know. Bobby Hill, maybe him too. But like besides that, the youth is not coming through the team. I know they debuted a decent amount of debutants this year, but they weren't. I don't know. They weren't amazing players. They were good at some patches, but all the end they all basically got dropped mid-year, end of the year, full experienced guys. So if they don't blood more players next year and give more players game time, I can't see them making the 8. And we'll do a prediction for next year's ladder after the season's done. Be a bit easier to know, especially after the trade period. Then we had Fremantle, which was top 8 most of the year, and then they lost the last 4. Tracy, Darcy, Pearce all got untimely injuries at the worst part of the season. But they were losing all these games by small margins, so in the end, if they would have won one of their last 4 games, they'd be in the 8 right now. But no, they're not. So wasted season for Fremantle, but I think if they get Bolton, if they get Baker, Pickett, I don't know how they get all 3. I think maybe it's just Bolton and Pickett. If they get those 2 guys, helps the forward line, helps out Walters and Fredericks, and gives them smalls to their Tolza, Amos and Tracy, which are Amos and Tracy are great 2 players, have a lot of potential. Jackson's a good player. If you trade out Sean, I think they should trade out Sean Darcy. You could get like a high pick with Sean Darcy from Geelong, and you could go into the draft. And I know Fremantle have like I think 3 top 18 picks, but they're going to use for Bolton and maybe Pickett if they bring in Pickett. So I don't think they'll have any top picks unless they trade Darcy out and get a pick, because Darcy and Jackson together don't play well. Like they don't play that well. Like because when Darcy's ruck, Jackson's a forward, and when Darcy's forward, which they don't really do. So when Jackson's rucking, Darcy's on the bench, and I prefer Jackson over Darcy in the ruck, because Jackson can be forward and ruck, and Darcy can do ruck. And plus Jackson's a lot younger than Darcy and not as injury prone as Darcy, but it seems like Sean Darcy's injured like every 3-4 weeks, and every game Sean Darcy got injured they would lose. It just, I don't know, like seems like when he plays, when him and Jackson play together they win, but like I'd still prefer Jackson over Darcy. So I would consider, if Geelong was going hard for Darcy and trying to replace Reece Stanley, I would say give us like pick 15, whatever you got, and we'll give you Darcy. And so Geelong can have that injury prone guy, and he's from Geelong and he's Victorian, so take him. But Jackson's enough on the ruck, and you can have someone back up ruck him, if that's Tracy or Amos, or you know. That's what I'd do at least for Fremantle. And then at Essendon, another disappointing season. Just like last year, we're in the 8 most of the year, and then near the end they fell out. They lost the games against Adelaide, they should have won. St Kilda, they should have won. Gold Coast, they should have won. They lost against all the bad teams. They lost the good teams. They banked some good wins early year, but it was them, Collingwood and Carlton, who were top 4 and maybe around 16, and then they all fell out, and Carlton are barely scraping the 8s. Yeah. So that's another wasted season. And their list is quite mature and old, so they're not blooding young guys either, just like Collingwood. So what are they going to do? Everyone they have is experienced. Everyone's on a massive contract. How long do they resign Stringer for? A year? I think that's a year's enough for Stringer. If he wants 2, tell him go away. So I know he kicked 40 goals, but yeah. He can be sometimes overrated, and Langford had a down year, and Merritt carried that team crazy, as he usually does, so I know the midfielders getting better with him, Caldwell and Durham and Shields, but I would consider trading out Shields St Kilda. You could probably get pick 25 for that. And you should go, Essendon should go to the draft and stop getting recruits, but that's all Essendon do. They get old guys recruiting, or they're paying this crazy amount of money to get Zirk Thatcher and Mackay. They paid a lot of money for those two guys, and they didn't really work out this year. No, like that, Mackay, not Zirk Thatcher. Mackay, yes. Mackay, Goldstein, and Dersma, they got all those guys in, and Mackay was okay, Dersma was okay but injured. Gresham was probably the best of the three. I don't know. They don't recruit like A grade people. They recruit all these B grade. The whole team is B grade besides Merritt. And Ridley could be A grade. He wasn't always injured all the time. And Redmond's decent. But like everyone in Essendon went worse than last year. The only one that improved was Merritt. Like no one all stayed the same. Everyone else like declined. Langford, who's like an Australian forward basically, he declined. Stringer was like the same as last year. Didn't improve. Like they got one of the most mature lists of games played. Jake Kelly retired because he knows it's not good enough, but like Draper's a good player, but Nick Bryan is quite young and experienced, and they got youth, they got old, they got everything in Essendon, but they should be playing finals. They got enough good players in that team, but they got players like Sam Wiedemann that doesn't play, and he's on their list, and Peter Wright's on their list, but he's not good enough, and they need to trade some people and get some players in, like whether that's trade or draft. They should get rid of it, like I would say Laverde, Stringer, maybe Nick Cox, because he can't be trusted. I don't know, like, you got to get rid of somebody, but you can't, Shields, you can't keep this same team, because this team gets you 11th, so you got to get someone out and someone new in, or you're going to stay 11th, because none of these older guys, like, Dylan Shields not going to improve, Stringer's not going to improve, there's a lot of players that won't improve, like, yeah, Gresham, I don't see Gresham improving, like, it's a B-class team, and a B-class team does not make finals, and I would even say their list is better than Hawthorn's, and they're not in the 8. They should be in the 8 over Hawthorn. Their list is way better. Merritt's a stud, man. I love Merritt, but Ridley's a stud. Langford can be a stud, but then the list does nothing. 3 years and no finals now. And they can't win a final. 20 years. I don't know. And what Essendon will not make finals next year unless they get rid of some people. And Fremantle will make finals next year if they get Bolton and Pickett or one of the two. They will make finals. They should make finals. And we got 12th, St Kilda. Will St Kilda make finals next year? I wouldn't say so. I know they get rid of Seb Ross and maybe Memory and Battle. And I think the only A-grade players they got on that list is Sinclair, Marshall, Wilkie. Everyone else is like B or less. Like, Brad Couch probably will retire. Butler's a good player, but he only had like 2 really, really good seasons. Then he's a little bit. Jack Higgins is B player. I'm saying you're leading goal kicker as a small forward. How far can you go in September with something like that? But Membry is very close to leaving. I see it happening. And then Ben King got injured, but Ben King is their best forward, but he can be injury prone. Sometimes he doesn't deliver. So I'm confused what they St Kilda will do. How they get out of purgatory of like always being like since 2012 they've been 2 final series and always been up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But look, they made finals in 2020, fell back out. Made finals in 2023, fell back out. No matter what coach they got, they just can't make finals 2 years in a row. And they're similar to Essendon. Essendon's the same. Essendon will make one finals, dip out, one finals, dip out. So St Kilda need to get a better list, but their list too is quite B grade list, not A grade list. They don't have these superstars like Sinclair's a superstar, sure. Marshall's a superstar, yes. Ben King, maybe Max King a superstar? Not really. Ben King's a lot better than him. So I don't know, man. St Kilda. Jack Steele, he's a legend, but he's getting older. Yeah, I don't know St Kilda. Wilkie, he's a legend. Battle's leaving. You got a lot of players leaving. So good that they're leaving. They'll get draft picks. And the thing with St Kilda too, same as Essendon, they always get players from other clubs, whether they be Mason Wood or Butler or Higgins or just half their team is from other. And there's always big, like every someone they bring from a different team, how many of them have improved besides like Mason Wood and Jack Steele? Like They bring people in, but they do not improve. Brad Hill hasn't improved from Hawthorn. He's based in all Fremantle. He's a good player, but he wasn't as good as he was at Freo. Yeah. And Membry got better than say Sydney, but he never played at Sydney, so a bit different. But Brad Cash, did he improved from Adelaide? No, he's worse than he was at Adelaide. St Kilda have been known for recruiting such B+ players, not even All-Australian calibre players. They're close to All-Australian, but not good enough. So I don't know what they do next year, but I don't see them making finals. Especially Ross Lyon, his game plan and low scoring. I'm saying the last few weeks though, you showed the last 10 weeks of the season they won probably 6 or 7, and they were high scoring and winning games they shouldn't have won. Whether that be Essendon, whether that be Geelong, whether that be Carlton, they could beat a decent team. So I don't know. I see them being similar position next year. Then we have Gold Coast, the biggest disappointment of the year by far. Top 8 most of the year, can't win away. If they win away, they're in the top 8 basically. They won 2 away games of 11. Just bad, man, really bad. And their home ground is a fortress now, good, but you got to win away as well. But so much talent in that team is ridiculous. They need to make finals next year, man. It's a big disappointment. Can I see them making finals next year? I'll give them a chance, but win away. That's all they got to do in the finals. Rao Anderson, Witt, Collins, legend. Flanders, legend. Ben King, legend. Lukosius, good enough. Ben Long played well. Tom Berry played well. Mac Andrew, what a legend. Ballard, good. Got a lot of good players, man. A lot of good players. Like Ben King, Rao, Anderson, they're A grade quite easily. And Collins too. Flanders too. So it's Flanders is a legend, man. They got so many good players, I'm saying. They got a better list than Hawthorn. Sexton's still there. Swallow's still there. They got experience too. Tuke Miller's still there. He's a good player. They got so much experience. So much, these guys have played together for a while. None of them are leaving anymore. So it's they got a better list than Hawthorn, definitely. But the potential of McAndrew is insane. He's such a good player. Collins is such a good player. The midfield is good. The backline is good. The forward is good. So why can't you make finals? I don't know. They're better list than Hawthorn, quite easily. Even Geelong, I would argue they have a better list than Geelong, but Geelong are old and Gold Coast are young, all of them can get better. And I know Lukosius has his bad games, so Lukosius can be a good forward if they play him. They're not on the wing, Hardwick. And Hardwick said, he's got 80% of their Premier list. It's possible, but Anderson and Rao are such a good combo. They're friends. They know how to play with each other. Witts gives a good tap. Even Ned Moyle was a good ruckman who could tap to them. And Collins is such a juggernaut in defence. And Mac Andrew, he's huge, man. Mac Andrew, forward, back. Such a good swing, man. The amount of talent they have, they should play finals next year. 100%. 100%. And then we got Melbourne. Petrarca got injured mid-year, didn't help them. Oliver got injured mid-year, didn't help. Oliver was playing hurt most of the year, didn't help them. Gawn got injured and they rushed him back, didn't help them. Their forward line is dysfunctional as usual. They can't score more than 80 a game. The forward line's horrible. Lever and May are getting older. Tom McDonald's basically at the end. I wouldn't resign him. May and Lever get cooked, man. They get cooked by Tracy and Amos. I remember that game. They got cooked. Fremantle cooks Melbourne. No, Melbourne are bad, man. You could talk about Petrarca and Oliver not playing, but the rest of the team was there. I know Gawn is injured, but Van Rooyen, Fridge, Petty, Turner, Pickett, and I don't know who else you put in there, but it's a very, very average forward line. Melksham too. Oh my God, Melksham. Fridge, Pickett, Van Rooyen, the only 3 that do anything in any forward they ever have in this whole team. Petty's so bad. Melksham's bad. Turner's bad. They're all defenders playing in the forward line. They're playing out of position. And Langdon's a legend on the wing. And Viney is very, very good in the midfield. But you could tell Oliver was having a down year. He was injured or something. But next year, if they want to make the 8 next year, Petrarca needs to be stop being a sookie baby and play. He'll be recovered by them. He can start talking about leaving and a bigger brand and all this. If you want another premiership, you, Oliver, Gawn, Viney, you kill yourself, kill in the midfield, and you will win. Organise your forward line properly. Get rid of Tom McDonald. Put Petty back. Put Turner back. Don't play Melksham. People send me emails, whatever. But yeah, can I see Melbourne making the 8 next year? Very, very. I don't see it happening. There's always anything's possible, but I don't know. Maybe not for next year. I don't know. It's quite hard to say with the trade period what happens if I don't know. Because that May Lever backline is not as strong as it was in the Premiership year. They're both getting older, especially May. He gets cooked, man. He's got no more energy anymore. He's just. And we had Adelaide 15th, probably the most disappointing team, especially for the expectations last year. They finished 9th last year over dubious behind Colts over goal. They should have made the 8 last year. And this year they've ended 15th, man. That's horrible. Absolutely horrible. 15th Adelaide. Ben Keys is a good player. Thilthorpe's a good player. Walker's still there. Matt Crouch is decent. Lair's a legend. Dawson's a legend. Solid backline. Rankin's a legend. If they get Lukosius, that'll be amazing for them. Sam Berry, tackling machine. Ben Keys is so good, man. Like, yeah. They got youth everywhere. Rankin is so good, man. Like, Thilthorpe, he could be anything. He could be a 50-goal player a year. He's so good, man. Thilthorpe, I love him. He's like 114 kilos. He's a beast. Who's gonna stop him? No one. So if they should make the 8 next year. They haven't played final since 2017, the grand final appearance. And I see Brody Smith retiring too. Who else would they get rid of? Brody Smith. That's probably it. Give Matt Crouch like a couple of years. Matt Crouch still playing decent enough. Yeah, Adelaide should make the top 8 next year. That's what I see of them. I think they got too much good players on that team. Like, the spine is good enough. Maybe in the midfield. The midfield, Dawson, Laird. Maybe you need to get someone quicker in there. Matt Crouch is quite slow, but yeah, little upgrades. Like maybe Fogarty and Thilthorpe are a very good combo if they just need to kick more goals, and they're amazing. And Walker's still there to mentor them. And Rochelle could be a better player than he is recently. He's all talk no action sometimes, but he can be a good player. So it's like, why can't they make finals next year? Like, how many teams will be better than them next year? Especially if they get Lukosius and another preseason to all these younger guys. And Rankin could do it. Rankin could be All-Australian quite easily. Thilthorpe could be All-Australian quite easily. I see the potential in them. West Coast was basically the same as last year. Disappointing year. They won more games than last year. They won 5 games. Whoop-de-doo. But who did they beat? They beat North Melbourne. And they beat Richmond. They beat Melbourne. When Melbourne were going well. But that was at Optus. I won't really count that. And they beat Gold Coast, which Gold Coast couldn't win away at that point. And then they beat Fremantle, which was quite an upset derby. So you had your few good wins, but it was a horrible season, and Barras will leave, and Darling will stay, I would assume. Crepes would stay, I'd assume. But the team is so old, they got to do something, but they got no money to buy anyone. They should go pick 3 in the draft, they should use it, they shouldn't trade it. But the youth coming up, some of them are decent. I like Ginbey. Ginbey's cool. Harley Reid is good. But besides that, who else is coming in that's a youth that's like such nearly A grade? Like, I don't know. And that Ruckman situation, Bailey Whelan is not a good Ruckman. And Matthew Flynn, he's not a good Ruckman either, so you got to sort out that. And your wing, Ryan Marrick, he's not that good in the wing. I saw a lot of games of him. He's not good enough, for now at least. And Gasper's leaving. Good. But at least you still got Liam Ryan, you still got Elliot Yeo. You got enough players in the spine, like McGovern, still good. Duggan is okay, Cole's okay. You got young players everywhere, experienced players, but how will they improve next year? Get your pick 3, use it. Put on a midfielder. I don't know. They've got no money, so what are they going to do? Like, if Jack Darling leaves, that would be crazy. But Jack Darling hasn't been playing that well. I don't know how. If he gets a game next year, I'd be quite surprised. But unless they find, like, if they draft a forward, then yeah. But if they don't draft a forward, I can see him playing and not playing that well. He doesn't mark anything anymore, and he doesn't have the pace he used to do. But he's older. Like, he played 15 years. He's 33 right now, Darling. Probably next year's his last year. And probably Jamie Crickson next year's last year too. And Elliot Yeo's near the end too. So yeah. Will they improve next year? I'm not sure. Depends what coach they get and the game plan. But Then we had North Melbourne. 3 wins every year. The last 3 years they won 3 games. Sheasel's A grade. Larky would be A to B grade. LDU's a good player. Wardlaw's a good player. Zerha is good but inconsistent. Cherry, legend. But your backline, very weak. Core's not good enough. Who else is even on that team? I don't know. All those big contracts you give to Fisher and all these people like that, it doesn't work out. So let's look at their team, North Melbourne. Let's look at their team. So Hugh Greenwood, he's not good enough. Stevenson, very, very up and down. Curtis Taylor, I don't know who that is. Zane Duursma, he has potential. Bailey Scott's got potential. Colby McKirkin, he's a good player. He's an amazing player. I could see him being a midfielder in the future. He's had like 37 in his first year. He has potential. Luke McDonald, I don't know why they keep him. Jeff Simpkin, good player, but can be injury prone. Darcy Tucker, no. Liam Shields retiring. Dylan Stevens, he got a big contract. He doesn't do much. Zach Fisher, he barely plays. Who are these people? Griffin Logue, really. Calm Coleman Jones has potential, but is injury prone. Tom Powell, decent player. Paul Curtis, decent player. Will Phillips, decent player. Charlie Comben, decent player. Toby Pink, I don't know that much about him. Jackson Archer has potential. Eddie Ford. They got a lot of young players with potential. Robert Hanson Jr. potential. They got a lot of potentials, but she was obviously their best player by far. So you need to make sure you keep him because he's going to be worth a lot of money. How can they improve next year? I think if you bring in Membry and you bring in some experienced players, but this team is way too young. If you bring a few experienced players in, and good experienced players, not your freaking Cooper Stevens and your Zach Fishers and your Aiden Cores and your Darcy Tuckers. You need to pick a player that actually played enough. But all these guys, they pick up like Tristan Cherry, he never got a game at his other team. Like, they pick players that didn't get games, that they weren't really best 22 players, only a few. But their contracts are ridiculous, but no one wants to go there. How else are you going to get players there, throw the checkbook? And I get the experienced players don't want to go there, but if they can get either Membry or Darling and use your pick 2 and probably, I don't know what else you can do in North Melbourne to improve next year. I can't see it happening. They got Clarko, the master genius, but that midfield is very, very solid. Like, the midfield is young and got potential. When Sheasel, he's All-Australian next year, I can definitely see that. And the back line, I don't know much about the back line. Right. But the forward line, I know Larky and Zerha are good players. I think the midfield is too good to be this low, so they should improve next year, you'd hope at least. And then the 18th place team, Richmond. Wooden Spoon, next year they'll probably be worse, but they're getting rid of Bacon, Bolton, Graham, Rioli. That's 4 players, and maybe Broad will go, maybe Lynch will go. I think a minimum 4 or 5 players leave, so their team's going to be so young and inexperienced next year. The only guys you're going to have experience on that team are going to be Nankervis, Prestia, Hopper, Taranto, Lynch, Broad, Vlosten. That's probably it. All the rest of your team's quite young. Jane Short. Who else will be experienced on that team next year? Vlosten, Prestia, Ross, Taranto, Short, Lynch, Bolter, Hopper, Nankervis, McIntosh, Broad. That's it. And the rest of the team will be young guys, so this team will probably get worse next year. This team might only win 1 game next year. But they're going to have such a huge draft hand. If Baker's worth at least pick 20. Bolton to be worth at least 1 or 2 first rounders. Who else? Graham be worth at least pick 20. Rioli be definitely worth the first pick from Gold Coast. If you get rid of Broad, you could get pick 30. You get rid of Lynch, you can get probably pick 30. So you're going to have a massive draft hand. They should be able to really rebuild quite quickly. If they bring in 5-6 players under the pick 30, they're going to be really bad next year. But 2-3 years, I give them a chance to fly up into the 8 like Hawthorn are doing. I know Hawthorn didn't do it with top draft picks. They did it with draft picks, smart drafting at lower numbers and recruits. But like when Hawthorn were bad, Amon came in, D'Ambrosio came in, Chol came in, Ginnivan came in, and Hawthorn were horrible last year. And the year before, and year before. But all these players came, and now they're Destination Club. They're finishing top 8 this year. They're going to bring in Barras and Battle. So it shows the Richmond do the same. Richmond, in a few years, go on to the top 8. People are going to run to that club and want to play. And that's what Hawthorn's going to be. Barras and Battle. Barras is an A grade player. Barras is B grade with the potential to be A grade. So Hawthorn going to be stacked next year because of their... And same with Geelong. Geelong is so consistent. Bailey Smith wants to go there. Sam Darcy wants to go there. Sydney too. Who wouldn't want to go to Sydney? Brian Grundy went to Sydney. James Jordan went to Sydney. Taylor Allen went to Sydney. Why wouldn't you want to go to Sydney? Sydney have a few down years, but they're back up. Port Adelaide too. A lot of people go to Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide are always figuring around the top 8. I know they don't win the premiership. They contend quite often. GWS too. GWS contends like all years basically since 2016. I think they missed finals twice since 2016. So why wouldn't you want to join them? Brisbane too. Brisbane made finals every single year since 2019. Western Bulldogs, good enough team. Grand final 2016, grand final 2021. They make finals most years, so you would want to join them. In Carlton, you'd want to join Carlton and Kerner Mackay and Cripps and Walsh and McWeedering. They've got a lot of A grade players. Carlton, and decently young too, so you'd want to... Carlton are going to defend for quite a few years. But next year, the teams I would give a chance to make in the 8 next year: Sydney, definitely. Port Adelaide, definitely. Geelong, I'm not sure. I'll give them 50-50. GWS, definitely. Brisbane, yes. Not very confident. Western Bulldogs, definitely. Hawthorn would be challenging. Carlton, definitely. Collingwood, I wouldn't say so. Fremantle, I would say definitely. Essendon, no. St Kilda, no. Gold Coast, chance. Melbourne, no. Adelaide, should. So a lot of teams should be contending for it next year. Yes. And my grand final this year, I picked GWS and Sydney, and I got GWS in the grand final this year. Could be wrong, but I see that happening. So yeah, thank you for listening. Ciao.